Welcome to another episode of Gonzaga Nation SI. I'm your host, Adam Morrison, with Dan Dickau. This may sound different because I'm taking the lead on this one a little bit. Let's do it. But yeah, interesting week for Gonzaga. You know, last week with LMU and Portland, kind of contrasting style, excuse me. What did you think about the LMU strategy early? Because it was a reasonable game the first 10 minutes.
Well, they've always been, this goes back to Dunlap and it goes back before him with, I think it was Max Good. They've always been a physical kind of grind it, slow it down opponent.
Yes.
Stan Johnson, I think, wants to get to the point where he's playing faster. He's playing positionless. There's more pick and rolls, but he doesn't necessarily have the depth top to bottom and the skill level top to bottom to compete with Gonzaga. And so when that's the case, you have to look at it like, what's our best chance to stick in the game and put some doubt in Gonzaga's mind and maybe make it a game going into halftime where you make an adjustment or two and you can extend that window where maybe you have a chance. And so they did that early. They played really slow. They played deep into the shot clock.
They would go at like 5. Usually you go at like 8 when the shot clock. They were going at 5.
They were, you're exactly right. They'd run like some dribble handoff actions or just, dummy actions where they weren't really looking to score on a pick and roll. It was just to kind of move the defense. But when you don't have as much talent and you're playing deep into the clock, I think you're putting your own players in a disadvantage because now you're trying to create something out of nothing.
Yes.
When the defense is probably, if you're a good defensive team like Gonzaga is becoming, you get even more locked in.
You're already in the right spots.
Yeah, you're in the right spots.
Yes.
And especially at the first half, I think this is always overlooked. In the first half, you have your bench in front of your defense. Yeah. So you can call actions out.
Yeah, it's true.
That being said, though, I think Stan Johnson is doing a nice job.
They play hard.
Yeah, they play hard. But nothing against Eli Scott. They're going to be better when he's gone. Like he puts up numbers, but to me, they're not impactful numbers to like win a basketball game. Yeah. They're like, hey, I had 22 and 9 and we lost. I did what I needed. Or,
plus minus or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's been there forever. He's been a tough matchup for a lot of teams because he's an undersized 4 that can step out.
Yeah.
Doesn't shoot it great from 3, but he's got a great drive game, and then he's crafty around the rim. But once he gets downhill, he doesn't like to pass or just not capable of it, or I don't know how to put it without throwing him under the bus, but it's just not his strength.
Yeah.
So a lot of teams will just say, okay, load up on his side, and then if he gets in a bind or if he's trying to get his numbers, he's going to put up tough contested 2s, and then if you can clear the rebound, you can get out and run against them. So I was interested too on the strategy. I understand it personnel wise, but when you go so late in the shot clock, I think it's hard. I think you put your guys at a bind that are not bad players, they're Division I players, and they have a winning record. But it makes it tougher, like a Quintana, to try to break somebody down, especially against an Andrew Nemhard or Rasheer Bolton, or even on our switch packages with like an oversized big compared to him. Like Anton can move his feet for 2-3 dribbles. So I always wondered, how you come to that decision as a coach, because I know that Stan Johnson wants to play fast, like you said, but then it's like, do I really want to get in a track meet? And then look what happened to Pepperdine when they tried to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
But here's a question I guess I would have for you is like when you were playing and a coach completely changed the style, like you start looking over your shoulder, say you take a 3 that normally would be a good 3 with 15 on the clock.
Yeah.
You start looking over your shoulder. Yeah. That's hard to do.
Well, and then I think sometimes you're telling your team that I don't think you guys can play with these guys.
Yeah.
But also, like, as a player, you have to have an ego. Your ego's got to be checked a little bit to allow your coach to make adjustments. But if you're trying to play fast and all of a sudden like, hey, we're going to literally walk it up the floor, it makes it really difficult because every possession matters so much more. And I think what was good that LMU did in that first 10 minutes of the first half was Gonzaga never got to the free throw line, so they could never 30 press. So then once our 1-2-2 press, so we couldn't get up and try to extend the game or quicken the game up a little bit. So, I was just interested what your thoughts, because you were at the game and covering the game as well, as when you see that. And I totally understand it. I just don't understand, playing devil's advocate. Like San Francisco went to a 1-2-2 zone in the half court, and it worked for a while, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't anybody else try it? What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the hard part is you kind of touched on it a little bit. You don't want to be too gimmicky to your players to make them think that, hey, everything we've done conceptually and kind of culturally to be good this year, we got to throw it all out the window to compete against this one team. So that's tough. But I do know it. I agree with you, and to a certain extent, like, what about a triangle and 2 at some point? Or I
boxing
don't
one,
know.
even like you boxing one, maybe Timmy.
Yeah.
Even though he can post up, but then you sandwich on both sides. And then you kind of, take your pick on the 3-point shooters. And we're going to get into the Portland game and where they made a lot of threes, but also like I like trying something different. And then sometimes you can get in guys' heads when they get. We've talked about this a little bit. And I know it sounds funny, but you get like wide open looks. Like
they're hard
on the first side. And when you're like, oh God, I cannot shoot this, but this might be the best look. And you start missing 3 or 4 of that. And then Fewy gets on your tail and then it's helping you. So I'm always like, hey man, stop going under on the ball screens every single time after a guy makes it. Go over, trap, pre-rotate. You know that term, you know what I mean? Pre-rotate with your bigs and then make them throw that skip pass in the corner, make a guy make a corner 3, stuff like that. But it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, though. Let me get it that way. I'm not a Division I basketball coach.
And it's fun, too.
It is fun. But sometimes I just, I'm sitting there calling the games. And I honestly want the league to be good. And it's better this year with USF, ourselves, BYU, and St. Mary's, right?
Yeah.
But I want these other programs to like give us better games. And it's not just like a pity thing, but it's more fun to call and it's better for them, their elevation of recruiting and stuff like that. So I'm always just like, man, I would just maybe try pressing us and see what happens. You know what I mean?
I mean, speed us up.
Soft press us. I think Tarleton did that.
The soft press, and then once you got in the half court, what did they? I think they fronted Timmy.
They switched and then fronted it with the backside.
Yeah,
and so then it made it like when it was earlier in the season, but when Chet was catching that high low,
he wasn't shooting it then like he is now.
Very true.
Changes the complexion,
but also like he's going, man, there's a 6'1" guy on him. I better throw it to him, but that there's weak side help. So again, we're not throwing Stan Johnson under the bus. I understand the philosophy, but I think. As the game progresses and you start working deep into that shot clock, it makes it really tough, especially like a guy, Quintana, who's shooting 45% from 3, was averaging 13, 14 points. I mean, every look he got was at the end of the clock, and guys just... Yeah,
especially for a guy like that, you say he's shooting like 45%. Why wouldn't you want him, maybe just that instance, hey, you need to take 16 threes
tonight. Yes.
Because if you hit 10, we got a chance.
We got a chance. No, I totally agree with that. But we did that. It was, a long time ago before the 3-point shot is what it is now, but they told Derek Ravi to shoot 10 a game because it was just a normal jump shot to him. Yeah. Back then, like, oh my God, but like a player like that, like, yeah, man, like 15 of them, like don't make them bad, but like 12 of them need to be good and maybe 3 bad ones. But if you get rolling, it's going to space the floor and things like that. But on to the next game that we covered was the Portland game, and with a little local flair, with Shante Liggins from
Flair,
Eastern.
yes.
Yeah, it was a little bit flair. Game got a little bit chippy, and as I was watching the game, I kind of got a little bit upset. Not just being a broadcaster and being a homer, but I thought it got to the edge a little bit, and then it almost crossed that line of being guys are going to get hurt, or we're doing the tough guy stuff a little bit too far. With the score out of balance. And I know the counter argument to that is like, you always play hard every day. Okay, but there's kind of an unwritten code on certain things. What was your thoughts on it?
Well, you're not the only person that said that.
Yes.
I wasn't at the game. I was calling a different game, but I watched the game when I got home yesterday. And it was a very physical game. Yeah. There were a number of plays that were kind of crossing the line. The one that jumps out quickly to me was Strother gets ahead on kind of like a breakaway and gets pushed in the back. It could have been bad. Luckily, he didn't get hurt, but it's kind of that fine line, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like unwritten code, you don't push a guy in the back.
No.
And a lot of that happens in college basketball because, unfortunately, the difference between pros and NBA, one of the things in the college game is always, we play hard.
Yeah.
well, shouldn't you play hard anyways? That shouldn't be like an added mantra to what your program's all about.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times younger players at the college level get all juiced up to play that way, especially against a big opponent like Gonzaga. It's a chance to put that play hard foot forward in front for their coach, who's probably been preaching it all week.
And a new coach, new system. Yeah. Throw that adds to it.
Yeah. And I think, Shantae's a really good coach. I think he's done some nice things in Portland. His first stretch, he's got a ways to go, but that's because of how bad Portland's been.
Yeah, they have I think they had 14 new guys on the roster.
Yeah, not a single returning player.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But with that, you set 14 guys are trying to vie for minutes. Yeah. It's not like we have anybody returning that's just pegged for 30 minutes. So you have to never take a play off. You have to just literally play as hard as you can every possession, or coach is going to be like, "Nope, let's go. We're next guy." Yeah. Where it's different. Like you look at Gonzaga this year coming in. Well, Timmy's starting. Anton might not start, but he's still going to play 20 to 25 minutes a game. Nemhart, you're going to start and play 30. So you only have a small window of minutes you're competing for with a program like Portland. Guys are still trying to earn minutes and earn their place in the program moving forward. So I think that had something to do with it. But I know you definitely weren't the only person to say it got a little chippy at times.
Well, there was the Strother play that kind of set the tone for that, how the game went physicality wise. And then there was a pull down foul on, I think, their big kid, number 15, in Dickau, or something along those lines. And right when it went down, the ref goes, he was looking at it, so he saw it right away. Yeah. Gave it to him. And then there was a play with him later where Strother got a loose ball and he got tied up, jump ball, and then he came over and it looked like he didn't mean to, but kneed him in the back of the head. So then that kind of ticked off our bench. And I don't think the kid meant it, because I was trying to decipher on air. I was like, man, if he did do it on purpose, it was crafty because it didn't look like it. So I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But then there was 3 plays later, he catches the ball at the high post and he slaps Chet Holmgren's hand away. And it should have been, that's automatic offensive foul, one of these. And so Chet gets into him and slaps the ball away. And so they both dive, but the ball squirts away from him. And Chet gave him one of these in the back of the head. And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. And I was kind of like, look, I never want to, and especially on air, and we learned this from that together. Who was that cat that did that Miami football? You don't come to our house and we'll kick you in the mouth. Like, you never say that.
Yeah.
Because it's not right. They're amateurs, and but it was kind of like, yeah, Chet, he kind of got that guy back. It wasn't that malicious, but when you can kind of dive and you shoulder a guy on purpose, and you're like, oh, my bad, man, sorry about that, but you meant to do it, or land on his wrist or something like that.
I didn't know that drill.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. To survive, especially a guy like Chet, that's always guys are trying to test him and stuff just because of his body type. It got testy, and I mentioned it on air. Huey left his guys in with 2 minutes to go too, and I think that was a message to that Portland team, you're not going to get 10 points back for putting the end of the bench, but I'm keeping my guys in if you're going to keep doing this. So he kept them in.
We're going to get to a triple digits. We're just going to put you in your place kind of deal.
Yeah, you're not getting 10 points back, and nothing against our, you keep your guys in and put our end of the bench guys in. And so it was kind of interesting. And then strategy wise for Portland, Gonzaga shot 41 threes, whereas 18 to 41 broke the record for McCarthy Center. I believe it's the all-time record for Gonzaga threes made. I was perplexed by their strategy as well. You watch the game, they were going underneath ball screens again to start the game. I just don't understand that strategy as from an opposing coach. And I could sit here and say, oh, you just go over, but then it's okay, they go over and then maybe knife in the key and then kick out. So I understand that, but those are workout shots. You play guys go under you. You're thank you, man. I can step. I can do one of these. Yeah, and the pick and roll when defenders go under, that's a different than the horse shots that we've talked about, where you're just standing there because you're waiting on the ball to come. Yes, and you see it the whole time. You get rhythm into your dribble.
Yeah, you get the rhythm into the dribble, and you can kind of manipulate the timing of when you come off and manipulate the footwork into the shot. But I don't disagree. I mean, yeah, you want to force, if that's your game plan, force them to shoot threes, right? But you can't have a steady diet of the same exact thing.
Very good point.
And we've talked about how would you play Gonzaga at different points. And I'm not saying I would do this against Gonzaga, but if I were a college coach, I would do this more times than not. On a side pick and roll, I would force everything down.
Ice it.
Ice it. Yeah. Some people call it ice. Some people call it down it. Yep. Some people call it blue. It's where you take away the screen. Mm-hmm. You don't let the ball handler come off the pick and roll. Texas Tech kind of does it as well as anybody else I've seen. They just force that deep corner. That's the only place you're going. And then at the top of the key, I would force everything regardless. Right-handed or left-handed, everything's going left.
Just strong side?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And really, because when you don't allow a ball handler to come off a screen and manipulate it by timing, by flipping it, by pausing at the point of the screen, you're giving them, you're taking away so many options, and you're taking away the creativity,
the skill set of your guard,
of an Andrew Nembhard, because what we've seen is he's one of the best, if not the best, pick and roll player in college basketball this year. Like, he's half the time he's not even looking to score coming off a pick and roll. Now, I think he needs to look to score more to come off of the pick and roll, but he's like literally just timing it like, oh, I'm going to stretch this big 3 more feet, and then I pocket pass to Timmy, or I throw it over the top, or that swivel pass that Gonzaga guards have become so good at, to take advantage of a possible trap that's coming their way. Yeah, I mean, underneath steady diet, you're going to get beat.
I agree. I mean, because I was saying on the radio, like, normally when you see 41 3 attempts, obviously we made 18, we're like, man, that bad shot selection, or, that's the first thing it pops to your mind. I'm like, man, there was probably only 3 bad ones. So like 38 of them were just how the game presented itself. And they were all good shots in rhythm. Obviously they knocked them down. And I mean, look, again, we understand, some of the personnel gaps that other teams have against us. So you're trying different things, but I sit there and I go, I'd rather have Andrew Nembhard or Rasheer Bolton shoot 15-footer contesteds by going over the top and center fielding and hoping your guard can get through. Or like you said, icing is downing the side ball screen is different. I think you got to have rim protection on the backside for it to work. We used to do it in LA, and I know that's a different world, but we had
Pau Gasol,
and Andrew Bynum,
one of the best,
and Andrew Bynum. Yeah. Okay, so like I get it, but like if you're solid and you can, practice it, like you mentioned Texas Tech, like it's so hard because it baits you into taking 15-footers on the baseline side that look like good shots, but a lot of times guys don't work on them, blah, blah, blah. And you have to have guys that can make that skip pass, break it down, and then fire it to the corner. And then you got to be able to make that shot or drive against momentum. But again, it was just such a weird game, how it was so chippy, and then you look down and you're like, oh my God, we broke the 3-point record. We had 10, I think, in the first half. Like the tacos chant was going 2 minutes to go in the first half. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, because I know Shante a little bit. He's a good coach. He got Eastern to the NCAA tournament, and rightfully so, not a knock on them, but they almost killed their whole sports program. So he got the heck out of Dodge. Yeah. Get it. So like some people around town were, why would you do that? And you have the Groves brothers going back, who ended up going to Oklahoma. I'm like, dude, they just almost voted to kill sports. Like
all sports,
all of them. So like self-preservation is okay. You know what I mean? Like, so I can't really hate the guy for that, but it was an interesting weekend. We got a tougher weekend coming up with USD, who's playing good. I think 6-3 right now in league. And then BYU is always good. They've had some tough, weird losses though.
Yeah. What about, they're going to the Big 12, right? And they're making this huge deal about it. Kind of like when they came to the WCC, they made a big deal like, well, we're going to challenge Gonzaga for titles every year. Yeah. I don't think they've won an outright one since they've been there.
They haven't. No.
No. They're a good team, but let's keep this true. Gonzaga's continued to dominate this league and extend the gap between everybody. But those 2 losses were not good. No. Santa Clara is better than their record indicates because Vrankic lost. But then Pacific, that's not a good loss.
No, and especially I think Pacific was up 15 at one point or something, like 13 or 15. So like the game was it was in hand for Pacific the whole time. Even though they pulled it out and it got tight, but it was like, you guys aren't playing very good, and you're supposed to be moving to one of the best basketball conferences in the country. Now we're not sitting here and just browbeating BYU.
No, not at all.
But like also it's like, hey man, that's a big jump. Obviously it's a little bit of a loss for the West Coast Conference in my opinion, because their brand is good. They're always a NCAA tournament team. I think Mark Pope is a good coach. But again, you get into a conference where your bottom 5 are better than our bottom 5.
Yeah.
Right. It's not
and you're typically your top 5 are possible second weekend teams.
Yeah.
Right. In the NCAA tournament. Yes. And this year in the Big 12, Texas Tech, Baylor, Iowa State was ranked top 8 at
Kansas
some point.
Good.
Yeah. How do you forget Kansas?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Kansas is good. It's like you could forget about good teams. So it's going to be an interesting deal for them. I mean, I understand the football aspect of it because we're not a football podcast, but they've been good for the last 5-6 years. So then getting into a conference, not being independent, that's a lot of dollars. Yeah. And it's a big market. And that's for that conference to be like, look at this Salt Lake City region that we can get eyeballs for sure. Watching our games. Yeah. Awesome. But basketball wise, God bless them. I hope they do well, but it's going to be a tough road in my opinion. Just because of how well the Big 12 is.
Yeah, but I will agree. Mark Pope is a great coach. I mean,
absolutely.
He did tremendous things at Utah Valley before he came to BYU. They have had some injuries this year, to be fair, but
the kid,
the big kid, Harward, kid, and then the other one, Baxter, I think is what it was. And they would have been 20 to 30 minute guys. Yeah, so
that's fair. Well, that wraps up. How did I do as the lead?
It was good.
Was when I lead dance, and lead, it's a little bit better.
No, it was good. I mean, it's a nice thing to have where.
Well, we got to pick your brain. That's the point. It's like you're an NBA player. Your jersey's going to get retired at Gonzaga. So let's just pick your brain instead of mine, right?
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm you're going to lead the second show release of this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from here on out, really, we'll have back and forth shows throughout. Question. Who would be your favorite guest that we could bring on where the both of us could sit down and just really ask a ton of questions?
Gonzaga related?
Well, that's a good question.
Joe Burrow right now, if I was being honest.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, I mean, Gonzaga related, there's a lot of guys. I'd like to have John on just because John's an awesome character.
Yeah.
And his brain is beyond our capacity basketball wise. I mean, you've sat with him before and you're just like, wait a second, you saw that? You know what I mean? You're like, that isn't okay. You're a savant. I'm just an idiot. You know what I mean?
Well, there's levels. We've talked about there's levels to knowing the game.
Yeah.
I think, we're here. NBA All-Stars are here. And John Stockton levels here. You're right. He sees things that we would never even think of.
No, you've probably gone to his workouts too. And it's him talking about pocket passes off pick and rolls and the spin and all this stuff. I was like, what? I never even thought of that. And it was so true. A guy's cutting this way, defender's barely in front of him. You got to put backspin so it drops back to him so he can catch it on this side of the rim. You're like, I just threw it to the guy and just hope you catch it, man. And figure it out after you catch it. But let's.
The one I want to have?
Who?
I think this would be a great one. You and I have talked with him at length many times. Phil McCarthy.
Oh, Phil would be great, actually.
He has more basketball stories.
Oh, yeah.
Not just Gonzaga related, but Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson in the NCAA tournament in Salt Lake City in 79 or whatever.
Yeah.
We got to have him on at some point.
Phil would be great. Phil's a fun character to hang out with too. We usually do once a year in Salt Lake. He invites us. He's got an office downtown, and there's a lot of cocktails going around and a lot of whiskey, and it's a good time because he has stories that that go from way back, and then he's obviously knowledgeable and knows the game. McCarthy Athletic Center, if we're trying to make the connection for people listening. So huge Gonzaga fan, but just a basketball fan in general, and just a good person too as well. So it's always fun to sit down with him and walk out of there at 4 a.m. like, oh man, this flight home is
my flight's in 3 hours.
It's like, all right, hope they don't smell me when I get on the plane. All right, that was our latest episode, Gonzaga Nation SI. Check us out on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify. What else are we on? YouTube.
YouTube.
Wherever you find them, we'll get them on there. All right, thank you.